Hi everybody, I continue my fascination with these shader graphs in Unity 2018.3, and today I'm going to do a shader graph that does something like this. To a rock I have two textures, and the textures are, with the shader graph, determined to be on the top it's going to render moss, and on the sides it's going to render rock, and that's all part of the shader that's there on the actual object. So this is the, let's see, let's pick the beach rocks here. And this is the shader that I made where the top bottom texture is this, and then the side texture is this. And then I also just had it in that you could do some normals so that you could have some bumpiness. Okay. And the cool thing about a triplanar shader is, like when I press play here, I have this rock, it just has an animation on it that just rotates. Whatever's the top, you could see, gets the top texture, and then whatever's on the sides gets the side texture. So that happens like when you place the object in the game, whatever's at top will get the moss, and that's the cool thing about it. So I found this like is going to be really good to use with rocks, or maybe if it snows on things and snow lands on the top or something like that. But let's see how we do this in this tutorial today that we're going to do at omervision.com. Probably to just show you the end result of what we're going to make here is a shader like this, where we have sections here. So first I have the top texture. This is the part that's going to be declared for the top texture, and there's a copy of that for the side textures. This over here is something that, oh gosh, what's that guy's name? iPod tools. I saw a video where he was able to take like a texture and have it render on one side but not on the others. This is what this part does. So it uses opacity so that this top texture only renders like on the top on the y-axis. And then over here, this will take it so it only renders on the sides, okay? Whatever the texture is over here. Then from those textures, I blend the texture information with the opacity, and then I add it. And then over here, the side texture, then I add the side texture, and then it goes into the PBR master. And then this part was extra for the normals, so you could have the bumpiness that I just took normal from the texture that you input. As you can see over here, the texture used for the top or the texture used for the bottom. And there's settings here in the properties to say whether it's going to be, you guys probably can't even see this, the offset and the strength of it. So I could turn off the top one's normal or turn on the top one's normal, and that gives like a little bit of bumpiness. So this is going to be kind of like what the end result's going to look like of the shader we're going to make. Just wanted to show you that right from the start. And well, let's start off and do this tutorial. What we're going to wind up doing is taking it from the top. Okay, so we're going to start doing this from the top. We're going to take a new Unity project. So let me just take this one off the screen, and I'm using Unity Hub, and I'm just going to open up a new Unity project, and I'm going to call it Triplanar. Really, it's biplanar, but I'll just call it triplanar so it could search better. Shader, triplanar shader. Use my latest version of Unity. It's a 3D project, and then I say create project. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Brand new 3D project. First thing we gotta do is get our packages straight so we can do shader graphs. These are the packages that are installed. We need two packages. We need the lightweight render pipeline and the shader graph. And what am I doing? I'm opening up the package manager window. So first thing I'll do is I'll let it open up here. I'm gonna just get rid of the packages I don't need. So I'm gonna do that. Slowly adds. For this tutorial, I don't need that. And I just found that doing this helps me because if I don't need a package, I'm also take it out and then the whole project takes up a lot less space on my hard drive. I don't need an analytics library, and I'm going to go through and take out the other ones I don't need. Okay, so I removed everything but the package manager UI itself. And now these are the packages that are officially released. If I go to advanced, I could show all the packages, including the preview packages. So, the lightweight render pipeline and shader graph, they're preview packages. So I'll install the shader graph, and that one installs pretty fast. Okay, that installed, and then I'm gonna install, let me scroll back down again, right here, the lightweight render pipeline. Install that one. And it's installing. So, so when the package is installed, they'll show here. See the shader graph one shows there now. And now the lightweight render pipeline shows there now. So I could close the package manager window because I have my empty 3D scene and I have the two packages I need. So now let me just think about the assets I want in my project. Well, let's make a lightweight render pipeline asset first. So we go to, let me do that again. I went to the project in the assets area, in the empty area here, I just right click and I'll say create a renderer, a rendering lightweight render pipeline asset. And I'm just going to name it LRP. P, please, letter P, LRP. And this asset is just for the settings on my weight rendering. So this is the asset. Now I just have to also set my game to use this asset. So I go to project settings, edit project settings, and then over here on the project settings graphics right here at the top, I could say to use my lightweight render pipeline asset right there. So now this level is using the lightweight render pipeline. I need that for using the shader graph stuff, okay? So we got that set up. And now we create a shader. So folder, oh, it's up here at the top, shader. So when I installed the shader graph, these three graphs here came in. I don't know how to use these other two yet, but this is the one we're going to use is the PBR graph. And what we're doing is a triplanar, so I'll just call it triplanar. And then it gets a little S icon like this. Okay, so a shader, you can't apply it directly to a object. You kind of need to apply it to a material, and then the material goes to the object. So I'll make a material. Okay, and I'll just call this triplanar material. And then I'll apply the shader to the triplanar material. I know I didn't make the shader yet, but we're starting. We're putting everything together here, getting everything set up. And the next thing I'm going to do now that I'm setting up all the things I need to make that beach scene that we saw. So I'm going to have my textures, which I just kind of search for them online. I have moss for the top of the rocks and rocks for the side of the rocks as textures. And then I did have sand for the ground. I just used a plane. And I had some models. So I had a beach rock model. And where am I dragging these guys from? I just have a folder here with my bag of tricks stuff. And then I'm going to use the large rock model. So I have two of them, okay? And I'll just tell you, I get my textures from, the internet. I could just say something like moss texture and press enter. And then, you get a bunch of images you could use, you could download for that. And the same thing with the rock thing, you just type rock texture and get a bunch of images for that. And now you may wonder, where do I get the models from? Well, the models, they can come from the internet. It's a wonderful place. I could just type free 3D models. And I could even get more specific since the FBX models import nicely, or OBJ. I could say free FBX models, okay? And it comes up like all these different models here. Some of them have animations and stuff like that, but I was looking for rocks so I could specify even more closely free rock FBX models. And if I click on, say, this one here, oh man, wait, this is Turbo Squid. Am I in the images still? Yeah, go to all, sorry. So free FBX rock models, and Turbo Squid has some things that are free. And then here you could see like this is the beach one that I had done. You just click on it, and then when you say download, you could pick pick the format you want. So I looked for the FBX zip, show all. See, and I wanted to get the FBX one, so that's this one right here, and that's how I got the rock model and this other rock. All right, so let's start creating the objects in the scene so we could see the shader graph in action. First, I'm going to add a plane to be the ground, and good, everything's at 0, 0, 0. And this is easy, no shader graph, just put the sand on it. Bam. Okay. And then I'm going to add the beach rock, which is very large. So my plane's going to have to be much larger. So I'm just going to make this like 50 and 50. Okay, and then when I did that, the sand texture gets really hard to see. So I'll just increase the tiling 10, 10, so you can still see like the sand, okay? And then I have this little line down the middle here in my camera view. Let's see, the rock is like that. This is the front. So I'm gonna turn the camera like this. We're making our little scene. Make a shader. And there's a little line here. I could just move the offset. Is that the X? Yeah. Okay, that's the X one. So I don't see the line. And that's the Y one. So I just see like sand. Okay, so we got that. And position a little better. Then align my camera, select the camera, and then say alignment view. Okay. So we have the one rock in there, and the triplanar texture, I'm just going to apply it to the rock. And right now it's just gray still. And then I'm going to have this large rock in here too, which is a really baby rock. It's so tiny. It says large rock, but it's really not that large, so I'll just scale it up. And keep scaling. And keep scaling. You're starting to see it. There we go. And, just going to have the rock there, so we have two different things. And then we're also going to have our basic shapes that we always know and love. Especially, I'm going to put a cube there. Since we're making a triplanar shader, I'm going to use the cube to explain to you how this shader is going to apply something just to the top and bottom, and then something else around the sides. And the cube's great for showing that off. So I'll put the cube in the scene too. Ooh, we're almost ready. Let me say save. All right, now let's finally open up this shader that we have attached to the material that's attached to, let's put it on the other objects here, the beach rock. Let's put it on the cube. Okay. So now I'm going to open up the shader for the first time, and here we go. Open up shader window, and it kind of opened up on my other screen. Let me just bring it down over here. So this is a little preview of what we're making, and that preview is right there too, so I don't need to have it double. And where's my little tools window? Where is it? I don't know, but we'll find it when we need it. Hey, come back here. There we go. So we got the PBR master. The albedo is where we set textures, and that's where we're going to start. So I guess the first thing we want to do is we're going to have a texture node to specify the texture. So that would be a texture 2D asset. And here I could pick the texture. So I'm going to first do the top texture. So my top texture is moss. And if I try to apply the texture straight to the albedo, it doesn't do that. It needs a translator. So I use a sample texture. And that kind of opens up right on top of there, but there we go. And then from the sample texture, I could tell it bam, so that we have a texture there. Now, if I save the asset, we should see the update on the objects in the scene. And the rock didn't get this. Let's give the beach rock the triplanar texture. Why don't you have this? There we go. Now they all have it. So the texture is being applied on all sides. Okay, that's a start. But like we said, we can't really apply the texture to all sides. We just want this texture to apply to the top. So we are going to do a trick with the normals. So only the normals coming from the top will render. So I need to create a node called normal vector. All right. And then the normal vector, this is like all the sides. So first, this is a trick I learned from this guy online. I think it's iTools or iPro Tools, his video. Then just gonna put an absolute, and the out from the normal vector is gonna go into the absolute. Okay, it kind of looks like that. And then from the absolute, I'm just gonna add a multiply vector. Okay, so I'm gonna take the output and multiply both sides. So I can have one side standing out. And then from that, I'm going to just take the one side. Create node. So I'm going to split the signal that I get from multiply. And from the multiply signal, the one that I want is, let me move things over a little bit here. Make space. Maybe shrink a little. I want the split and the texture, and I need a blend. Something to blend the two signals. Blend. And here we go. It's just a blend here. So from the texture here, instead of going straight into PBR, I guess I'm going to take texture and go into here. Wait, which one do I go into? Blend. Okay. And I could delete this one. You just select it and press the delete key. And then from here, from the split, I'm going to take the G. Okay. And now this can go to the out. And something's wrong. I wanted it to show like the grass on the top. Yeah, so here's the moss. Here's my texture. Let me add something else over here. Let me add tiling for this. But no, I shouldn't need the tiling yet. Let's see. Let me just shrink down all the collapse the previews. Okay, so we got this. Multiplies those two. So we got world coordinates for normal vector going into absolute. I multiply both, and it goes into a split. And I take the green, and I go into here. And then over here, I got the texture that we saw work. Goes in, and so the only thing over here, this is set to overlay blend. Let me open this up, and let's see what the different settings are. Burn, darken, let's divide. These don't really have an effect. And what's pin light? That one's showing something. But I think the one I want is overwrite. Yeah, okay. So overwrite. Now you can see on the top of this is the moss. And this is what I wanted to prevent. So this part here, if I just remove it, the moss is displayed all over the whole thing. Okay? But with this part here, I could control that it only displays on the top. And I guess I could also play around with it and see what happens if I use this one. It only displays on the front. And if I use this one, it only I don't know where it's displaying. Maybe it's the red. Is it R? On the sides? And this one only displays on the sides. So R is for the side, and B is for the side, and G is for the top. Let's remember that, okay? So this thing takes all the normal vectors in all directions, and then it kind of takes that signal for all the directions, and I could just take which direction I want to use to say is visible, to say is opaque. And R is the top, G is the top, R is the sides, and B is the front and back. Okay, good. So that's what that does. And this part here just gives us the texture to render. And then it gets blended and sent to the PBR master. So we did the top texture. So now if I say save asset, let's see how that effect happens into our scene. And we could see there that everything but the top is rendered. So on the top we have a rendering, and on the sides it's all black. And you could especially see that with the cube, since the cube is split into its actual sides. All right, so now that we know that that worked to do the top, all we have to do the sides is basically just copy. So we take this and I press Control D to get a copy, and I'll just move this one down here. Okay, and let's get this one going into there so we could see this one. All right, and like I said, let me delete that. And the R, if it goes into there, does the sides, and the B, is it? Does the front. Whew. So the only thing is, since I want both of these to go the side and the front from this texture, I'm just going to add another node here. Oh, let me zoom in. I'm going to add another node here so I could get both the R and the B. So it'll be an add node, so I can add the two things together. And I'll take the R into here and the B into here. There you go. And then from there, I go into the opacity. There you go. So now I have the sides, front and backs, left and right. And I can shrink that down, move this over a little. All right, since I added those two signals. Now we just have to figure out a way to get the top, whatever texture I'm using for the top, combined with the texture I'm using for the sides to go into this one thing. And just to show we got a different texture for the sides, I'll pick the rocks texture for the sides, okay? So now, because we can't do this because it's only taking in one signal at a time, so we're gonna have to try to bring them together. So I brought these two signals together with add, so I should be able to do that again with another add. All right, and I should be able to take this texture and this texture and adds them together. See? And I'll take that and go into the albedo. And there we go. We got textures for the top, bottom, and then we have the same texture around all the sides. Let me press save. And let's take a look. There you go. It's working. Oops, let's look at it over here. It's working. Got the rock on the sides and on the top. Square on the sides and on the top. And even though this one kind of looks all chunky, it's just, I guess the model is chunky. That's why I added this rock in over here. And I also had added an animation to this large rock, so you could see that even though it moves, the texture just stays on the top. So let me just do that right here. So I select the rock, then I say animation, and let me create one called spin rock. Okay. And all I have to do is turn this on, and then just move forward in time and just rotate it a little bit so you can see. See, even when I'm rotating it here in the animation thing, you see how it does the side that I turn it on is moving. And then I guess I'll just rotate it like this too so you could see. And then I just come back over here, Control C, Control V. We have an animation there. Now let's just stretch it over time so we can see it slowly. It's maybe like 5 seconds. Let's see how that looks. It just turns around so you can see how always on the top is applied the top texture. Okay, make it go a little slower. Here, a couple of seconds. All right, so that thing will play an animation for us so we could see it when it's moving around. So what else could we do? Now that we have these two textures here, sometimes you may want to control the tiling. Like this moss here is way too big to be moss. It just looks like green bumps. So we may want to control the tiling. So let's just add that in here. Oh, also, before I even do that, we probably want to control what the textures are, because here I have them hard coded. So I'll just right click and convert that to a property. Okay, and where's the other texture? Right here. Right click and convert to property. There we go. So our two texture inputs are properties, and where the heck did that little texture window go? Little properties. If I say show in project, will that help me? No. Where is it? I know, I'll just close and open this window. Let me just save that. See, there's supposed to be a little properties window here that's not showing. This is in preview mode still, right? So let me open it again. And here it is. Here's the properties that I exposed. So this is the moss texture. This is the rocks texture. What I'll call this one though, I could rename it for what it shows in the inspector window, because right now, if you look in the inspector window, oh, I must move this over. Here's the beach rock, and you can see that in the inspector window it says moss and rocks. But that's what we're using, moss and rocks. Somebody may use snow and who knows what. So let's name this instead what it is. It's the top texture, and this is the sides texture. Okay, we'll do that. And then that way, save it. When I come into the Unity, now it'll say top texture, sides texture, right? So for the top texture, we could say moss, bink, see that? And for the sides texture, we say rocks, bink, and there we go. Now somebody could control that. Now the other thing we said we want to control is the tiling. So let's bring that into the picture. Oh, I don't want to close that. All I want to do is make another property. So I'm going to add a property, vector1. No, actually it's not a vector1. It's going to be a vector2. Because for the tiling, you have X and Y tiling. So it's going to be a vector2. And, we could say how much to tile it. So by default, we could say the tiling is 1. And this is tiling for the top texture, we'll say. Top texture tiling. Okay. And then we'll drag that into our thing here. And where do we do the tiling? Where do we do the texture tiling? Oh, we're going to need a tiling and offset node. So create node, tiling and offset. Okay. Bam. And shrink you up a little. So here we get the tiling values, put them in there. Boop. And then we get that and output it to the UV. Boop. That should work for that. Then we're going to do the same thing at the bottom over here. We're going to have another property called, it's another vector2. This will be the side texture tiling. Boop, boop, boop. Everything's boopity boop. And by default, we'll have a 1, 1. Okay, then we'll just drag and drop that. Boom. And it needs tiling and offset. Boom. Shrink you up. And this will be the tiling. And that will go into the UV. Okay, looking good. Save it. Save it, save it, save it. And now look at the Unity window again. And let me move this all the way over. So now we have the top texture tiling and the side texture tiling. So for the top texture, let me just take a look and let me just tile that up a little bit more. On the X, maybe put it to 5. And on the Y, so it looks a little better, you know, the scale of it. And then for the rock texture that's on the sides, we could tile it if we want to, you know. Let me play this animation over here of the rock. I mean, it looks like it's good, or we could tile it. But mainly had to tile that moss because that moss was looking too big. But let's just test to make sure that the tiling works on the rock too. So let me just pick one of these objects here and see if I do that. There we go. Tying it up a little bit, maybe to 3. And then tiling on the Y. Oh yeah, it does look better if I do that. All right, so yeah, so tiling is definitely something I guess we want to have the person able to control. And now we got that in the here in the thing. So I could stop here and have the shader just do those two things because I do think that the more things I add into the shader, the more it's gonna, take on CPU time to render stuff. But probably one other thing that's nice to have is control over the metallic and the smoothness for the user. So that's easy. We're just going to add in vector 1 and say this is the metallic. All right, enter. And we'll probably add another one for the smoothness. Vector 1, smoothness, enter. And we have these two properties coming into play over here so that the user could control it from the inspector window. The metallic right there, and the smoothness right here. To get rid of that shine, because maybe the rocks don't shine that much. So save it, and then come back. So, yep, there you go. Now you have the metallic and the smoothness. So I can increase the metallicness and see how that looks. And I can increase the smoothness and make it look like plastic, or like a rock maybe should look. All right, now I'm going to press play, because I think we pretty much got it. We got our triplanar texture. And there you go. Dum-dum-dum. Oh, and if you just wanted to see what the shader would look like with the normals, how am I going to do this? If you wanted to add normals, let me try to do it like this here. I'm gonna copy from my other shader graph. Copy. I'd come in here, and I have to have an input, paste. Okay. I basically have a normal from a texture, and that basically takes whatever texture the user is giving in and turns it into a normal. And let's see. Let me just do that. Create normal from a texture. Okay. And now that I could do 2 of them. So say I want to use it for the rocks one. This is this one, the one on the sides. And all I have to do is, here's the texture. I draw a line over here to tell it that's a texture. And you can see there's a normal right there for it. And then over here I could draw another line from this to the normal input. And you'll see that you get that. So the thing is, you probably want the user to be able to control how strong that is too, right? So you probably want to expose these settings for strength and offset. And the other thing is this is only for the texture coming in from the side. You're probably gonna have to put another one in up here for the texture from the top because we got two of them, right? So normal from a texture on the top. And this texture is right here. So I'm gonna drag and drop that into there. Wait a minute. Texture input to the texture right there. And that's the moss. But you're gonna see here you can only do one at a time, because now if I put the moss as the normal texture, you see that happens. Okay, so if I want to combine them, then I'm gonna have to use some kind of thing to combine them with. Now, what can I use to combine them with? Let's see. I'm gonna use create node normal. What do I have? I have normal blend to blend two normals together. So I'll take this normal and I'll take the other normal from here. Oh, where are you going? Escape. And the other normal from here and blend them together. Okay, and then that will be my normal. Now you see if you put them together, you just get a whole big mess. So probably this is where I put in the part where you probably want the user to control which one do they want to input and, the strength and the offset. So that's why I added in these two things as properties. So I'd come over here to my properties window again. I'm going to have to add 4.2 for this one. So this is the top offset, top strength. So top, normal, offset, and drag that here. Okay, and it could have a default value of I don't know, 0.5. Forgot how strong that was. And then I could have another property, vector one, for top, normal, strength, like how deep it looks for the bumps. And that was I don't know what it was. I'll just say I'll say 0.5 also for now and see what that was. Oh, was it at 8? Oh my gosh. And then put that into there. Yeah, so 0.5 is too low. Let's put it to like 3 as my default there. So at least it's something when people put the texture. Okay, so I have those two inputs there. So basically, if somebody wanted to turn off the bumps from the top, I guess I could put this to 0. Sorry. 0 and 0. Okay. And then, so the top one has no normal, so it's kind of off. And then do the same thing here at the bottom. So if you want it to be off, you just turn them to 0. If you want them to be on, you're going to set it to a number higher than 0. So this would be the side normal offset. And I'll set this at 0.5 or something like that. That was a good number from last time. And that could be my offset right there. And then I'm going to have my side offset strength. I kind of forgot the word normal. Side normal strength. Ugh. Side normal strength, and that one had to have a higher number, so that could be like a 3. Okay. And use that right there for the strength. Yeah, so with one of them on at a time, it probably looks better. Let me save the asset. So now we have a graph like that, where this is controlling the normal. This little section here controls the normals. This blends the normals from the top or the bottom. This is the bottom, the side textures. This is the top texture. And this part right here controls that it's only rendering to the top. And this part right here controls only that it's rendering, to the sides. So the sides have the left and right top and left and right front and back. So that's a command to have an add node to combine them. And whew, there you go. That's a graph. Let me try to zoom in. This is different than code. You have to actually see everything to copy the shader graph. So I was at different places at different times. Okay, here's a top one. Here's a top's normal. Okay, here's the sides texture and the sides normal. And this adds the two textures together. And this adds the two normals together. And normals go to normal, textures go to albedo. I also made properties to control the metallicness and the smoothness. Save the asset, close the normal window, and then over here we should have our new values in here. Yep. You can press play and see the rock spin. And there we go with an extra 10 minutes. I just added the normals. Here you go. Have fun, people. I think this is great.